Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial. So in the last tutorial we built a small little application around converting pounds to kilograms and kilograms to pounds, if you remember. So just to bring that application up, it looks something like this, where we were converting your weight in pounds to kilograms or kilograms to pounds. The user would enter a selection, they would enter their weight, and then based on that we would go ahead and we would put in, let me just change this back, I forgot to do that. We would put in or pull some kind of a function here, and it would then go ahead and calculate your weight for you. And in that, I slightly introduced you some of the if statements that were out there, but I want to expand more on if statements in this particular tutorial. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've scoured the internet, and I've got a couple of lists made up of food that is of different types of cuisines, so Italian, Indian, and then I just added in pub food because we all love it. And then I also have whether that food is fatty food or whether it's sort of a fitty food. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to build a mini application that's going to ask a user to tell us whether they feel like fitty food today or whether they feel like fatty food, and then also ask us or tell us whether they like Italian, Indian, or pub food. And based on that, we're going to give them an option based on whatever is in these lists. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick a random item from each and every one of these different lists based on the user's selection. So I know I haven't talked to you about modules yet, but modules are essentially packages or Python code that somebody else has written, and they've built functions, they've built classes, they've built methods in there that other people can use. And one of them is called random. And what random is going to allow us to do, and you'll see in a moment, it's going to allow us to go ahead and pick a random selection from each one of these different lists based on the user selection. So why don't we start this off with essentially printing out and asking the customer. So we're going to say print, and we'll do a multi-line comment here, and we're going to say, do you want Italian food today? Do you want Indian food? Or do you want pub food? And whatever they enter, we're going to go ahead and save that in a variable called food type. So we'll say food type is equal to, and then we're going to say, and then they have these options, Indian, Italian, Indian, or pub food. Now remember, we're asking them to enter in a number. So for this to work, because food type, like I said, an input is going to take in a string, we should immediately convert this into an integer before we forget later on, and the code's just not going to run. So we're going to do a similar thing with asking them whether they feel fat today or whether they feel fit today. So we're going to say, I feel like fat food, or to, I feel like fit food. And then again, we're going to store feel in a variable, wrap it in an integer input. So I guess the first one is just what are you in the mood to eat, and the second one is specifically the kind. But the print prompts are going to actually help the user input whatever they want. So let's just see what that looks like so far. Let's print that out. It's going to say, what are you in the mood to eat today? 1, and then I feel like fat food today, or I feel like fit food. If I hit 2, it's going to do nothing right now because we haven't told the command to do anything. So now we're going to talk about something called a nested if statement. And what a nested if statement means is that it's an if statement within an if statement. So for example, if I say that they feel like 1, which is I feel like fat food today, I can actually now say, all right, now that I know that you feel like fat food today, let me go and ask you on top of that, what kind of food do you want today? So then I can say if food type is equal to 1, then print. And now here's where we're going to use the random selection. So what we're going to do is we're going to say print random dot choice, and then we're going to just pass in the list name. So we know if they want Italian food and they feel like fat food, we just pass in this list. And so that's your first scenario done. And what you can do now is just honestly copy this down a few times. And we're going to change this now to elif because you can only have one if. And now we're going to say if they actually want to have, if the food type they want is Indian, then we're going to just go ahead and change this to Indian because it's already at fat food. And if this is 3, we're just going to change this to pub. And so now this should actually execute all the scenarios where they feel like they're fat today. And so again, I can just go ahead, copy paste this entire thing, change this to elif, and now change food type to 2, and all of these just become fit, and it's in the same order. So the lists are made in a way that it's just easy to edit the code. And honestly, that is it. your application is done, we'll just wrap it with one last else statement. So else print, I don't know what you want, or something like that. So let's give this a shot. One, so let's say I want Italian food. So this is my Italian food list. And I feel like I'm fit. So it should either pick pasta salad, skinny spaghetti, or baked eggplant. Skinny spaghetti, which is within that list. Now let's try this again. Let's say I want pub food, which is 3 on the list, and I feel like I want to be fat. So it should pick fish and chips, a burger, or nachos. So I feel fat, which is 1, and it picks nachos. And now you can spruce this statement up a little bit here as well and just say something like, and there you go. So now you can take this and you can just copy this all the way down here. And I mean, it's that simple. Like building these applications is really that simple. And so now we're going to say here again, 3 pub food. I want to make sure that it's fit this time. So today you should eat a Greek salad, which is pretty cool. So, that took us no time to really go ahead and build such a small little but fun application. And that gives you some idea of how to use a nested if statement. Now, if you go back and think about what are the different types of inputs that we actually entered, it was really the type of food and whether you feel fit or not. Now, really, if you think about it, we can wrap this entire thing up in a function. So let's just see how we're going to do that. So I'm going to leave the list intact as it is, because really where the math for the function starts over here. So why don't I just say define food type. I'm going to take everything here and indent it over. So I just highlight it and I hit tab. If you have a Mac or a PC, it should be the same. And now, technically speaking, within food type, I want to be able to pass 2 parameters. One is feel, and then one is going to be food type. And so now if I take this entire function and I just put it above this stuff here, I can now very easily call this function. All I have to do is I have to write food type. And remember, it's feel and food type. And so for a second here, I'm just going to comment these out because all we're going to be asking the user now is to tell us my feel is going to be, so what it's asking me first is my feel. And I'm going to say, I feel like fit food. And then 2, it's going to ask me Indian food. So when I run that, it's just going to tell me right off the bat, hey, you need spinach salad. Or I can say, make that a 1. And now it's going to say, today you should be having chicken tikka because I said I feel like fat food and I feel like Indian food, which is 2. And so it's going to say that. I can go back and easily reintroduce this here as well and just pass out feel and food type. And hit print and go 1, 2. And I just realized I probably shouldn't have called the function and the variable the same thing. So let's just say food ideas. So this is good. We're learning as we're going, and that's the important thing. Even experienced programmers will make some funky mistakes as such, so it's okay. So 1, 2, and now it says you should have baked eggplant because I said I want Italian food and I want it to be fit, baked eggplant, which is part of this list right here. So what you'll find in a future tutorial is we can actually take this entire function and put it in its own function somewhere else in a different file altogether. Just have one line above here that says something like import food ideas from x.py or something like that, and rerun this code and it's going to work fine. And the beauty of that is the reason why you want to do something like this is you may want to reuse this function somewhere else. And rather than retyping it every single time that you're coding, it's just easier to reuse the function. So we will get into how do you move these functions into classes or how do you take separate functions and move them into a different file and pull from a different file. We'll get into that as well. But what I really wanted to help you understand today is the fact that you can do a nested if statement. And then once you get that code working, you can wrap it in an entire function itself, pass on the 2 variables that matter to you, which are right here and right here. So what it's really doing is it's taking whatever number we've inputted into feel, which is coming from here, feel, and we're taking that and we're feeding it right into this function. And then when the user enters food type, it's going into here and it's feeding it right up here into this function. And so now feel gets passed down into this if statement, food type gets passed down into this if statement, and it just goes through that iteration. So if the user enters 1 and 2, it'll do this. If the user enters 1 and 3, it'll do this. And that's the beauty of functions, is the fact that you can rewrite it. So guys, hopefully you found this one useful as well. Nested if statements and then just wrapping that into an entire function. If you did find this useful, please like and subscribe. And if there's something that I've missed or something that you'd like to see different, please let me know as well. And I'll do my best to either answer in the comments or make a new video about it. Please consider liking and subscribing. Thanks. Bye.